I'm going to be ranking every Spider-Man villain in the Insomniac Spider-Man series. I ranked boss fights before, but this is ranking the actual villains themselves, taking into account their character, how they were utilized in the games, amongst other things I may say for each of them. There are 25 villains in this video. I was going to include Black Cat, but I took her out because, is she really a villain? I voted no, so she won't be on here, but let me know if that upsets you so I can laugh at you. Keep in mind this ranking is my own. I really hope it pisses somebody off, but this is my list of least favorites to most favorite. Before we start, make sure to subscribe please. I'm trying to reach 150k before the end of the year. Also subscribe to my second channel for more content. Leave a like on this video, but without further ado, let's move on with the video. Starting at the bottom at number 25, I put Mysterio. I was not a big fan of the representation of Mysterio in this series. Mysterio in other versions has always been a really interesting character because of how crazy he was and the lengths he went to get to Spider-Man, but in this game, he's innocent and a good guy, trying to reform himself, which is cool, but as a villain, he was not engaging to me. It turns out the real villains of the side mission was very predictably his two random assistants that nobody cares about rather than him, which was a boring ending to me. Mysterio's classic personality of being this maniacal villain worked well with his abilities, and here, he's just a pawn, which sucks, and I kinda wish that Peter interacted with him in the Insomniac verse rather than Miles, but we never see it. I feel like with Miles, they don't have that history that him and Peter had, so it's just less engaging to me overall, which is why Mysterio is my least favorite villain of the series. Number 24, the Tinker. I did not particularly enjoy the Tinker as a main villain. I put her this low because with other villains, even if they have less screen time, so to speak, they have something to their personality or character that I like. With Tinker, I think she's an okay main villain, but she felt pretty bland and her motivations make sense, but I didn't really connect with it. I think a big thing that hurt her the most is that her storyline is just kind of Doc Ock storyline from the first game, except worse, and it happens right after, which hinders her even more. Not much to her personality that makes me interested, nothing quirky or unique about her. She just fills the main villain spot, which is okay, like it's fine, but it makes her forgettable, and for that, she's pretty low. Number 23, Screwball. Okay, Screwball to me isn't like Riddler, where even though Riddler is also annoying, it's in a charming, funny way, I guess. With Screwball, I just didn't really find her that entertaining. I think the whole streamer personality has never been interesting to me, like being used as an outlandish or villainous concept. For that, it's kind of lame. And I think for that reason, Screwball kind of sucks. I think she is interesting for a little bit. Like, her personality does kind of make me chuckle in a cringy way. But overall, I think that she's just kind of whatever. Not as memorable as someone as annoying like Riddler. Number 22, Kingpin. This might surprise people, but let me say with a really popular villain like Kingpin, I try to hold them to high standards. Kingpin in the Insomniac Spider-Man games did not have enough screen time to make me really enjoy him. From what we see of him, he's not nearly as menacing as he's usually pertained to be. I didn't feel like Fisk in this universe was menacing. He was just a big brute and he wasn't used much at all in the game to give him enough of a character. Kingpin is a great villain in general, and here he served as a good introduction to the series. It is cool, but as a villain, I think it's one of the weaker interpretations of Kingpin. I'm not saying in the canon of this universe that he's not that. Like, he could totally be a guy that rips someone's face in half or slams someone's head with a car door, but we don't ever see those things in the Insomniac games. He has very little screen time. So for those reasons, he's a little bit on the lower end for me. Number 21. Prowler. Prowler is a cool villain. A problem with Miles Morales is that the characters in the story, and the story in general, I find the weakest of the three games. I think Miles' uncle here wasn't the best version of the character we have gotten. Despite that, I think the design for Prowler is cool, but he just felt like he needed to be in the story because it's a Miles Morales story. Nothing about him in particular with his personality that really stood out to me, but there were some moments with Miles that is pretty cool. So for that, he's a little bit upper on the list, but other than that, he's kind of a whatever villain to me, and I'll never forget that he makes some dog shit music. Number 20, Simon Krieger. Simon Krieger's pretty cool. He really gives the twirly mustache villain vibe. He's not some overpowered costume villain. He's just some regular guy that's really full of himself, and I actually like that for his character. It stands out amongst all the costume people in the Spider-Man world. It's interesting, I actually liked when he was on screen. Is he better than the costumed Spider-Man villains? Not really, no. But he served his role better than the others mentioned on the list before him, and I did enjoy his presence more than the other new characters in Miles Morales. I think they did a good job with him. Number 19, Cletus Cassidy. Now look, when we see Cletus become full-on Carnage, one of my all-time favorite villains, I'm sure he'll jump up on the list, but for now, I think Cletus, for who he is well done. But still not a complete villain as of yet, you know? He's not a red killer symbiote monster thing. I think his personality here is great. Crazy cult leader with a vibrant personality, but he's clearly a psychopath that loves to kill. And what I always loved is the ending scene where we find out this guy is Cletus and he will soon become Carnage.
And when the crimson hour rolls over this earth, it shall bring truth, judgment, and carnage.
I liked Cletus quite a bit and his setup is pretty good, but still at 19 because I like other fully developed characters better, but who knows, this guy could be top 5 once he's Carnage, we'll just have to wait and see. Number 18, Vulture. Now, I'm going to say right now, the next 4 in the list are all Sinister Six members to me. They all feel very similar or are on the same tier as Spider-Man villains, if that makes sense, but for me, Vulture sits at 18. I love the Vulture. He's a classic Spider-Man villain. When I think of Spider-Man villains to list off of, I think of Vulture as one of the first to list off of. Campy, classic villain with a unique costume design and rich history of Spider-Man. The Insomniac Spider-Man version is not really any different than that, which is awesome. He does have an almost sympathetic storyline in the first game where you find out he's got spinal cancer, but doesn't really go anywhere. And overall, it's hard to explain, but Vulture's just a nice villain to the Spider-Man roster. I don't see anything wrong with him, but nothing that stands out too much, which is why he sits at number 18. 17, Electro. One of the next Sinister Six members. I really like Electro here. He's pretty cool. What I like about him is how strong they made him seem. His bio in the first game has Peter suggesting that this dude can beat the Avengers if he was locked in and not so stupid. Electro did seem more powerful than the other members in that regard, and I like his maniacal personality. To me, he kind of felt like the most serious out of the lower tier Sinister Six members. And it almost felt like Peter took him a little bit more seriously than the rest because Peter knows that he could be a huge threat if he wanted to be. I'm kind of surprised Kraven killed this guy, but I guess not really at the same time. Kraven was overpowered. But yes, overall, I think Electro's a great villain. Number 17. Moving on to 16, Scorpion. I like Scorpion a bit more than the other two simply because of his abilities and personality. Personality-wise, this guy talks so much crap. It's actually pretty funny. And abilities-wise, he does pose a threat to Spider-Man. It could have killed him in the first game if he really wanted to in this cutscene here. I just like how he has a toxic personality versus everybody else, which is the main reason I put him a little bit more above the rest. And I like how he got put in his place in the sequel. I can't wait to see him in the third game. Number 15. Rhino. Out of all these tier of Spider-Man villains, I liked Rhino the most. Rhino had some of the most screen time out of these guys, and he was also, in a way, the most menacing at times. But he was also pretty funny, which gives him some points. He had some funny dialogues in the game.
Do you have any non-destructive clothing?
My fishing on the Volga.
That sounds nice.
Like my new collar, immune to your little zappy pops.
Zappy Pops? Come on, man.
On top of that, the dude had an interesting storyline. It was one of the few that didn't die to Kraven. Did he die in Miles Morales? It was never made clear, so I don't know if this guy's dead or not, but I think he was a pretty well done villain. What sucks is that Rhino has some sympathetic storylines in the comics that I wish they adapted in the Insomniac verse, so it sucks that they didn't do that, but overall, he was pretty interesting and I liked him a lot. Great villain. Number 14. Taskmaster. I think Taskmaster was really cool for a few reasons. What I really liked about him is that he was a villain outside of Spider-Man's universe, helping to flesh out this world in a meaningful way. As a character, though, I would say they got Taskmaster down to a T. Interesting and mysterious personality, good design, his whole thing to copy people's moves are also there, and the whole time you can't help to wonder as to who hired this guy and what they want with Spider-Man. His presence in the world felt like it connected the world, and it felt real, especially when he attacked you while swinging. It was a very well incorporated character, and he was pretty well written, all things considered. I actually like Taskmaster a lot. Number 13, Scream. I think Scream, for the little screen time we see of her, is really cool. Symbiote designs are awesome, and I really love them. Scream is no exception. On top of that, I really like the portrayal in the sense that her being mixed with MJ brings out the worst in MJ, putting all of her insecurities in the forefront. Overall, a really menacing villain. Not nearly enough screen time compared to other villains, but overall, she was that scene stealer, and the whole sequence with her was pretty cool, and I liked it a lot. She sits at number 13 for that. Number 12, Tombstone. Now, I really love Tombstone. What I really love about Tombstone is that he really feels like a slice-of-life villain for Spider-Man. I always love that aspect of him. As far as personality goes, he's really menacing. I mean, working for this guy, I would fear for my life compared to some of the more goofier villains like Scorpion. I really like his relationship with Spider-Man too, how he likes their fights and can't wait for the next one. But then you see him become a better person in the sequel as he tries to redeem himself. It's a pretty cool arc that they give him, but I really did like his relationship with Spidey in the first game in particular, alongside his menacing personality and appearance. I think Tombstone's a really great villain. Number 11, we got Sandman. I think Sandman was very cool. While I wasn't a fan of the design of the boss fight, I think visually they got him down perfectly with his powers. He really is a force to be reckoned with, but I think what makes him one of the better villains is that I really loved how they handled his sympathetic side with his daughter, and how he tried to go straight for her, but ultimately got pulled back into the supervillain lifestyle. I like the mystery of it in this side mission, and how Spider-Man tried to help him out at the end. I think he was a pretty cool villain. Overall, he's one of the Spider-Man villains you feel can be redeemed, which I really liked. Sometimes I can't believe that with other villains, but with Sandman, it's totally true. Okay, now moving on to the top 10 of Spider-Man villains. Let's get started, man. Starting at number 10, Shocker. Now, some of you might be shocked, alright, as to why Shocker is so high up, and I'm here to tell you why. First of all, I think they got his design and abilities pretty well. And I like that Spider-Man doesn't take him seriously. And I really think Shocker does stand out for being that joke villain, which they got down in these games pretty well. But what really brings him up is that they really flesh out his character more in Spider-Man 2, where it's revealed he died of Kraven. However, Kraven mentions in his recording tape for him that Shocker was really trying to survive and live.
Oh no. He didn't deserve this.
Dusk. 22 Celsius. Put to rest with a blade to the sternum. This one was merely something when faced with the Predator, though. He did not try to prove himself superior. He fought only to survive. It was vicious, feral, sincere, but not enough. Even in death, his eyes stare into mine like he might try to kill me. But my luck has run out, and I am left again with no one.
It makes you feel sad. Shocker was always taken as a joke, but it makes you feel sad for him in a way, right? In Spider-Man 1, he felt forced to work for the demons or else he'd be killed. In the second game, he does get killed by that game's villain. He was a pawn to these monsters, and I feel like in his final moments where he was really trying to live, he showed more character. And I think it's sad that the other characters in the game other than Kraven don't acknowledge that about him, and I think that elevates him up more for me. Overall, he was a really great villain in this series that I wish we saw more of. Number 9, Wraith. I think Wraith was honestly a really cool villain. First of all, her music is badass, but something Wraith has over other villains is that she has a lot of character development. Yuri got her whole story played out pretty extensively in the first game, from cop to not being a cop to then a vigilante. I like that you can feel her resentment to Spider-Man and hating how he does things, and her abilities and whole getup is pretty cool too. But the biggest thing about her that I like is that she has a pretty noticeable character arc that gets developed quite a bit over the course of the games, and her interactions with Spider-Man are really good. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're violent. I liked Wraith a lot, and if you don't count her as a villain, maybe she wasn't at the end of Spider-Man 2, but to me she was to a certain extent, so bite me. I loved Wraith, she was a great villain. Number 8, Hammerhead. I really loved Hammerhead. I think it's more biased here than others because I really like the whole classic gangster mobster vibe they had going with Hammerhead, and they did that really well. But on top of that, I also really like that Hammerhead had some moments that were really dark compared to other villains. Like how he killed all those cops in his introduction. It's some pretty dark stuff that sets the tone for the guy. Like, yeah, he's cool, but he's also really evil. Remember that? I like that he posed a pretty big threat to Spider-Man in the DLCs, and those DLCs did give him a lot of time to have a developed character. He was someone you could see beat Spider-Man if Spider-Man didn't have any help. I just really liked his dark introduction coupled with his mafia personality, and him being a threat to even Spider-Man, and what he did to Yuri gave him more aura points too. Overall, I loved Hammerhead. Great voice actor, great design, great motivations, and I'm glad he was the center front of the DLC. Number 7, Venom. Now, I know that some people didn't like this version of Venom. I understand that and also agree to an extent. Just to get that bad part out of the way, I did not particularly like Venom's ultimate goal of trying to take over the world. I would much rather have a personal story between him and Spider-Man. However, that aspect of a storyline here to me was fine. It didn't completely take me out of the game or anything, or it wasn't terrible. It's just something I didn't prefer. That being said, I think everything else about Venom here was very cool. The design and voice actor of the legendary Tony Todd, may he rest in peace, was perfect. This Venom was just pure eye candy. I think while his interpretation is not my favorite, Venom as a character is just a huge bias for me, as I just love this villain. And in this game, the way he eats Kraven, the way he terrorizes the Oscorp guards, the way he yells and his mannerisms, his size, the way he still has that connection to Peter still in the game, the "We Are Venom" line. Venom here was really memorable for reasons like that. And I do like his connection to Noel that's alluded to in the game that helps expand the universe, which I love things that expand universes. I just love that. There's a ton of good surrounding this Venom over the quote-unquote bad that people talk about, and I feel like that's not highlighted enough. But I think another fair criticism is that Venom is not really in the game all that much. He's like barely in the last half of the game, so that sucks. But despite that, I really love Venom in this game, and I thought he was a great villain, and I really hope he comes back in the Insomniac universe. I really hope this is not the only game we have our classic symbiote in. Number 6, Lizard. I think Lizard was such a good villain in the game. It's probably another biased one, but this whole list is, so who cares? Lizard as a villain was very menacing, and he was such a scene stealer, but I think what really makes him stand out is Dr. Connors' character. He has a very tragic story, like kind of between the lines in this universe, but he still tries to do the right thing. His family left him after the Lizard incident, which in itself feels very depressing when he didn't want to become that monster in the first place. And he also lost his arm due to helping Norman with the symbiote. And he has made some poor decisions, especially when working with Norman, but despite all that, he still tries to do the right thing in the second game with Peter and the symbiote, and I think that adds a lot to his character. It's subtlety like that that I really appreciate. It's a really good interpretation of the Lizard in this universe, and it makes him a villain you hate to see become a villain when you know the person behind the villain is a good man. Really good villain. I really like this interpretation of Lizard. Not only is he a huge force to be reckoned with, but there's also a lot of complexity with Dr. Connors, which I really like. Alright man, top 5. Let's get to the top 5. Number 5, Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative is an amazing villain from the Insomniac series. Probably the villain with the most screen time in the series, if I had to guess. He had a really cool character arc from Spider-Man 1 to 2, and honestly, he has the advantage of being like the first villain in the entire series, right? Like the first true big bad we follow. I love how kind he seems at first, but then you slowly see his evil and resenting side, his true negative self. And then I really like how he tries to become a better person in Spider-Man 2, but also realizing that his past keeps catching up to him with Miles and people like Norman and Kraven. He cannot escape what he's done, and it haunts him. And I think that's really well done for him, especially with his abilities. But even as an evil villain, the things he did, like bomb City Hall, having so many people killed, he was menacing and a force to be reckoned with. He was a really well-written character in the series, and he had a pretty meaningful arc that tied really well into the main story of Spider-Man 1 and 2. And I really liked that he has a good connection to both Miles and Peter, with Miles' father and Peter with Feast and Aunt May. Hopefully we see more of his storyline in the next game, because I think he was a really well-developed character. Number 4, Norman Osborn. Surprising? I don't know. Norman might surprise a few people, but this guy is clearly a villain. And we'll soon see how big of a villain he is when he becomes the Green Goblin, but as of now, we can see his greedy, douchey business side in the first game, but then we also go on to see how much this guy kind of deserved everything coming to him. He screwed over Otto, he screwed over Mr. Negative, he kind of screwed over his own son by giving him the symbiote. This guy ruined so many lives. He was an asshole, but then you also find out how much he cares for his son, how he lost his wife, doing everything he can to save his son from his disease, and then you question it. Does he deserve your sympathy, or did he deserve what's coming to him, like karma, you know? The voice actor Norman does a fantastic job making you feel that. I can feel the desperation in his voice in a lot of the scenes with him.
Hurry, I'm begging you! Stop! They're going to kill you out there! I can't lose you too!
Norman's writing here, I think, is excellent. Excellent. He has his depressed, sad side of how he's losing his family, but it almost feels like he deserves it for what he's done to others. I don't know whether to feel bad for this guy or not feel bad for this guy. And I think that's solid writing for a villain like Norman. Like, I really love that. I always feel like Norman can be one-dimensional in other Spider-Man stories, but here I actually really like how he's tied between being like an asshole and not caring about anybody, but then putting everything on the line for his son. Hopefully they stick to landing with him in the next game. Number 3, Symbiote Spider-Man. Okay, despite the symbiote storyline feeling a bit rushed, I think Symbiote Spider-Man here was such an awesome villain. It's just always hype to me to see Peter slowly delve into becoming this evil, malicious version of himself. There are some moments from him that really stand out compared to other villains, like these lines here.
No wonder your family left you. You're not strong enough.
He's the only reason I'm still alive.
Yeah, it's pretty great, isn't it?
Why don't you pop some more pills and say what you're really feeling?
Hey, don't.
Even though the symbiote storyline was shorter in this game, you still feel like Peter became influenced by the symbiote at a progressive rate. And it also creates one of the most memorable fights in the series. You do feel like Peter needs the suit to become a better Spider-Man. I feel like he would have been killed by Lizard if he didn't have it, kind of thing. He feels like he can help more people with it, but in turn, he also loses himself. It's really cool seeing those elements of the character, and I loved it. That's why it's top 3. I just do. And Yuri Lowenthal, the voice actor, does a fantastic job selling that. Symbiote Spider-Man was awesome. I wish it was developed more, but even despite that, I love this villain and it made for a ton of memorable moments. Here's Yuri Lowenthal telling you to subscribe to me.
Gotham Paladin here, and I have a special guest with some nice words to say.
It's me, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, who always has nice words to say. The Insomniac Spider-Man, anyway. I'm here with my friend Navi, and Gotham Paladin. You know, I love superheroes, he loves superheroes, so I love what he does. Thank you for coming to check out the channel. And now I'm probably going to become a frequent visitor as well. You know, when I'm not out having to save the city of New York, which arguably does happen a lot. So thank you all for tuning in to Gotham Paladin with me, Spider-Man, and you know every superhero.
Yeah,
Gotham Paladin right here.
Gotham, Navi, whatever you want to call me.
Yeah.
I'm the best guest right here.
Thwip.
Thwip.
Number 2, Kraven. Kraven was an amazing villain in the Insomniac games. I kind of just wish the second game was all about Kraven. I think his storyline here was really unique and really well done. His whole thing of trying to find someone worthy of killing him, but he was just too damn powerful to find anybody, was badass. His demeanor to accompany that was so well done. You really felt like Spider-Man had no chance versus this guy. Only the symbiote Spider-Man could beat this guy, I guess. The dude was really powerful and made light work of the Spider People as well as Spidey's rogues gallery. I never felt that way with other villains in these games where when Kraven showed up, I really didn't know if they could beat him. He was powerful, smart as hell, menacing, controlling. I almost, like I said, wish his entire game was about him. But his ending, where he technically wins, was so memorable and perfect to me. It was a perfect transition to Venom. Kraven was too powerful to stay alive. He was a monster, and I think his characterization was done perfect, and his storyline here was really well done. I just wish we got to see more of him. A very well done character, absolutely blown away by Kraven's interpretation of the universe. Such a beast, dude. And finally at number 1, you guessed it. Number 1 is Black Cat. Yes, I know I said I wasn't counting Black Cat, but I only said that to throw you off. But yes, I think that Black Cat is the best villain of the franchise. Let me just say, Felicity had a real... Okay, obviously I'm just trolling. Scroll back up. It's Dr. Octopus, okay? Obviously, Otto Octavius holds the number 1 spot as the best villain in the Insomniac Spider-Man universe. Otto Octavius, jeez, they just stuck the landing with this guy on the landing. Perfect. Something I really love in villain stories are the personal connections with the protagonist. The bigger the personal connection, the more I'm invested in, as long as it's written well. The story between Peter and Otto as student and teacher to then enemies was so well written. You can really feel that Otto was screwed over heavy by Norman, and while his reactions were kind of crazy, you understand it nonetheless. Otto did so many nice things for Peter, like keep his identity a secret or give him that job, and Peter had faith in Otto in the story, and Otto acknowledged that, but he still threw everything away. It really hurts, and you can feel that in him and Spider-Man's final scene together. As a villain, though, he was scary, menacing, powerful, intelligent. He turned all his gifts into something evil. You don't want to take this guy down, but you also have no choice. It's a really well done arc of the teacher going down the wrong path kind of deal. Doc Ock had all these perfect attributes, and Insomniac molded it into something so cool to see. Dr. Octopus had one of the best arcs and storylines in the first game, and I'm going to love to see where they take him in the third. Amazing villain, the best in the series, number 1. Spectacular, amazing, marvelous, I'll stop. Doc Ock is the best villain of the Insomniac Spider-Man series. Just too perfect. I don't see any downsides to the guy. Come on, man. He's perfect. But with that is my ranking of the Insomniac Spider-Man villains. I think even at number 25 Mysterio, I still enjoyed it. Like, they're all great villains in their own ways, but some are better than others, obviously. One has to be at the bottom, but you let me know what you think. If anything is wrong or stupid, let me know. If you think my voice is cringe, let me know. But other than that, make sure to subscribe, comment, and like. I really appreciate all those things. Likes really help, so I would really appreciate those. But hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next video. Stay safe, really, and peace, man.
Nobody to try.